Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
Hi everyone, and thank you so much for streaming with us. I'm Rita Roy, and welcome to ABC News Live Weekend. Take a look at your top headlines. Showdown in the CDC. The Trump administration moved to fire Dr. Susan Menarez just 4 weeks after her confirmation. The White House says the decision came after a tense conversation between Menarez and Health Secretary Kennedy over changes to vaccine policy. Menarez also refused to fire top agency leaders. The administration says Menarez is not aligned with the president's agenda of making Americans healthy again. But her attorneys say she's being targeted for, quote, protecting the public over serving a political agenda. It could take months to find a replacement. But for now, Deputy HHS Secretary Jim O'Neill has been named acting secretary. He said he supports vaccines, but not government mandates. At least 95 people in more than a dozen states have been affected by an outbreak of salmonella tied to recalled eggs. Country Eggs LLC from California has recalled large, brown, cage-free sunshine yolks, or omega-3 golden yolks eggs, and production has been suspended. The CDC recommended that consumers check their fridges for recalled eggs and throw them away or return them to the stores. And Southwest Airlines said that plus-size passengers will now need to purchase an extra seat in advance. The move has social media in an intense debate about the weight of airline passengers. Southwest's decision is in line with what other major airlines do. Delta, United, and American have policies saying that if a passenger doesn't fit in one seat, they will be removed and will need to buy an extra seat on another flight. Turning now to our top story. On the same day President Trump announced he'll take oversight of DC's Union Station away from Amtrak, the company unveiled its newest high-speed train. RJ O'Brien was on board the Acela NextGen's inaugural trip and takes a look at how these new trains could change the way millions of Americans commute and travel.
On a day of celebration,
the sun is shining, the sky is blue, the band is here.
Washington, D.C.'s Union Station is also confronting new management, the latest move in President Trump's federal takeover of the Capitol. National Guard troops already fill this gateway to the city. And as we arrive, the Department of Transportation, which
after a 14-year Major League Baseball career, our next guest is hoping to make it to the big leagues of politics. Retired All-Star slugger Mark Teixeira is running for Congress out of Texas as a Republican. He is now joining us here on America Reports. It is so great to have you here, Mark.
It's great to be here, Sandra. Thank you.
All right, I think we have everybody's attention. We've got a slugger running for Congress. So why throw your hat in the political ring?
So this journey for me started about 13 years ago. I'd blown out my wrist, had surgery in 2013 playing for the Yankees, and I had an entire summer off, and I spent a lot of time thinking about what does life look like for me after baseball. And my wife and I sat around and we talked about public service a lot. So I started praying about it and see if God would open up some opportunities. Got involved in some local politics, some fundraising, doing events for different advocacy groups. And for me, I just wanted to see if this was something I was interested in. Well, it ended up that I loved it. And seeing President Trump and his America First agenda really getting after it the last 7 months and making America great again is something that is working for American families. This agenda is working. And so for me, I just felt like now was the time to join that team. I've been a part of a lot of great teams, and I know this is a team that I want to be on.
Oh, but that is quite the message. This is your campaign announcement, Mark. As a lifelong conservative who loves this country, I'm running for Congress to fight for the principles that make Texas and America great. It takes teamwork to win. I'm ready to help defend President Trump's America First agenda, Texas families, and individual liberty. So in your own words, what would be the core policy focus of your campaign?
It's pretty simple. Secure the border, low taxes, shrink the government while growing the economy, protect life and the Second Amendment. That's what the conservative principles that are helping Americans, helping American families, helping America prosper. Those are the conservative principles that I will bring out on the trail and that Texas families deserve. The Texas 21 district is full of great people, patriots that love God, love their country, love the state of Texas, and I can't wait to go out out there and meet all of them and make sure they understand what I believe in.
I'm sure they'll be eager to meet you as well for many reasons, right, Mark? All right, this is the current map of the 21st District. As we let in Governor Abbott today, making it official, the new congressional district map there in Texas. We know Democrats fiercely oppose this. Many of them fled the state to avoid the vote for it. What is your message to those Democrats who said this just wasn't right?
Have better policies. I know that progressive policies don't work for America. You can see it in cities all across the country that have Democratic and progressive mayors, and those cities need to be cleaned up. You see what President Trump's doing in Washington, D.C. right now. It's working. And so what I would tell Democrats in Texas, all over the country, is when you have policies that actually want to help Americans, come talk to us. But Republicans are out there, conservatives are out there with an American first agenda, and we're going to be helping Americans, helping Texans every single day.
All right, so just for fun, we drew up the congressional baseball game stats. The Republicans have led the all-time series 47-42 since 1909. I'm sure many of those that are currently in Congress are going to wonder if you're bringing your glove if you win.
Absolutely. You know, President Trump loves winners.
On this Saturday night, a U.S. court shakes up Trump's trade war. The legal battle's ahead after most of America's tariffs are ruled unlawful.
President Trump's tariffs are illegal and unconstitutional.
And the uncertainties and possibilities for Canada's economy. Visas denied for attending the United Nations. How the U.S. is blunting attempts to recognize Palestinian statehood. Plus, who says big box stores can't succeed? An iconic retail brand is making a comeback. And the end of summer is in the air. Sky-high sights and sounds at the Canadian National Exhibition.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Eric Sorensen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. U.S. President Donald Trump is vowing to fight back after a federal appeals court ruled his sweeping import tariffs are illegal, saying he exceeded his emergency powers. For now, the duties remain in place as the case heads to the U.S. Supreme Court, but changes could be on the horizon. Mackenzie Gray breaks down what this means for Canada and the future of U.S. trade in tonight's top story.
For the first time since Tuesday, President Donald Trump in public, off to play golf on Labor Day weekend, after the centerpiece of his political and economic agenda was dealt a potential major blow.
The bottom line is 7 judges recognized today that President Trump's tariffs are illegal and unconstitutional.
The judges from the Federal Circuit Appeals Court voting in a split decision that Donald Trump's reciprocal and fentanyl tariffs went beyond the authority delegated to the president under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, saying the president required congressional approval to implement them. But there's one catch. The court ruled that the tariffs can stay in place until October 14th to give the Trump administration time to appeal to the Supreme Court, which U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi confirmed they would do. So, what does this mean for Canada? The 35% tariff on non-free trade goods under the so-called fentanyl tariffs have been deemed illegal by the court, but the 50% tariffs on steel, aluminum, and copper, along with increased duties on softwood lumber, are not affected by the sort.
Canadians are kind of lucky because most of our products are protected with the CUSMA rules. So if you can prove that your product that you're sending into the US, you should not be impacted.
Between 85 and 92% of Canadian goods have continued to go to the US duty-free during the trade war.
Today, clashes erupted in Melbourne as anti-immigration rallies met with counter-protests around the country. The wife of suspected gunman Desi Freeman urges him to surrender, while Victorian police continue their search. Protests in Indonesia turned deadly, prompting the president to cancel a planned trip to China. And records broken in the Sydney Marathon, and 3 Aussie women in the top 10 as the city debuts as a world major. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Melissa McKay. Anti-immigration rallies are taking place in capital cities and regional centres across the country this afternoon. In Melbourne, anti-immigration protesters and a pro-Palestine rally have clashed in the CBD, with pepper spray being deployed and several demonstrators assaulted. Hundreds of police blocked the groups from meeting near Flinders Street Station, but members from both groups marched down other streets away from the blockade. There were few police in that area at the time. Large crowds have gathered at Sydney's Belmore Park, with many people waving Australian flags. Police have formed a barricade to stop hundreds of counter-protesters who are marching to Hyde Park from clashing with the group. Up to 1,000 police officers will be out in force in the city today, with the Sydney Marathon and the weekly pro-Palestinian rally also taking place.
We have no interest in entering Belmore Park. We do have an interest in, standing shoulder to shoulder with refugee and migrant communities, and then later linking up with the Palestine rally as well.
Counter-protests have crossed paths. A new world of luxury travel. Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak here on France 24. Our headlines this hour. Xi Jinping welcomes world leaders to the port city of Tianjin, including Vladimir Putin and Narendra Modi. The summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization comes as Donald Trump has been upending global trade relations, a display of China's strength as an alternative to the Western world order. Swedish activist Greta Thunberg and actress Susan Sarandon among those on a humanitarian flotilla trying to break Israel's blockade of Gaza. The mission is the largest of its kind, but Israel has intercepted previous attempts. And Ukraine is investigating the assassination of a former head of parliament. Andrei Parubey was shot dead in the western city of Lviv on Saturday. He was known for promoting closer ties with Europe. Hello, good morning. It's 6 o'clock on The Breakfast Show today. We have the Archbishop of York's message to Nigel Farage.
And Manchester United head coach Ruben Amorim says he's always talking with the class hierarchy after easing pressure on himself with a win over Burnley.
It's Sunday, the 31st of August. The acting spiritual head of the Church of England says Reform's deportation plan is a knee-jerk reaction and not the answer to the small boats crisis.
I'd say to them, you haven't solved a problem. You've put it somewhere else, and you've done nothing to address the issue of what brings people to this country.
Putin has arrived in China for the Tianjin summit, where he'll be joined by more than 20 world leaders, including Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi. We'll hear from one survivor of domestic abuse after research shows 97% of black women wouldn't expect fair treatment if they reported abuse to police.
Plus, with just one more day to go until football's transfer window closes, Liverpool bid for England defender Mark Gay, while Chelsea pulled the plug on a player exit at the very last minute.
Hello, good morning. Thanks for joining us here on Breakfast.
Yes, it's 9 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong, and welcome to the debut of Alex Armstrong Tonight. I believe there is nothing more urgent than mass migration. Tonight, it's the big question no one else wants to talk about. Is mass migration destroying multiculturalism? You come to the UK illegally, you will be detained and deported and never ever allowed to stay. Period. Yeah, Nigel Farage is under attack from the church. The Archbishop of York slammed Reform UK's knee-jerk migrant deportation plan and
referendum to leave the EU. We are absolutely clear now that there is no way that the Remain side can win.
Yeah, what a moment that was. A stunning new revelation today. Was the Queen really a Remainer? We'll be debating that and whether or not we should even know this in the first place. That's going to be in our head-to-head.
Straight and true. Calling it far right they are. Newspapers is right. Most far right about it. It's got families, women and kids.
Yeah,
as protests have continued across the country far and wide as the fallout continues after the court backed the Home Office's plan to house migrants at the Epping Hotel. We'll be speaking to one protester from Wakefield about her very unique story. And are white kids being left behind at schools? And all of you know Watch Me, that's very close to my heart. A new report has highlighted the frightening divide in race in British schools. And joining me tonight is my brilliant panel, former Labour Party advisor Paul Richards, journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, and former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blakesley. And what do you think is going on here? Well, thank you.
Hello, I'm Yasmin Yonkers with your headlines this hour. Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto cancels his planned trip to China as unrest at home spreads beyond Jakarta. Days of protest have triggered violence that's led to the deaths of at least 4 people. Russian President Vladimir Putin's touchdown in Tianjin to join the Indian Prime Minister and other leaders at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. The largest gathering yet of the Regional Security Forum starts today amid several wars and tensions with the US over its tariff policy. The EU joins others in slamming a US move to revoke the visas of Palestinian officials, denying them access to next month's UN General Assembly. Citing a 1947 World Body Agreement, it says access to the annual gathering in New York shouldn't be restricted.
And it is unacceptable that the Palestinian delegation of Mahmoud Abbas voted an attempt. United Nations, its protection, its immunity, its worldwide, and European Union must be at the forefront of those that defend it.
And those are your latest headlines from the CNN Newsroom.
This is Asia Now.
Hi and good afternoon. It is 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 a.m. in New Delhi, 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Yasmin Yonkers, and at this hour, Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto cancels his planned trip to China as unrest at home spreads beyond Jakarta. Days of protests have triggered violence that's led to the deaths of at least 4 people. Russian President Vladimir Putin's touched down in Tianjin to join the Indian Prime Minister and other leaders at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. The largest gathering yet of the Regional Security Forum starts today amid several wars and tensions with the US over its tariff policy. And the EU joins others in slamming a US move to revoke the visas of Palestinian officials, denying them access to next month's UN General Assembly. Citing a 1947 World Body Agreement, it says access to the annual gathering in New York shouldn't be restricted.
And it is unacceptable that the Palestinian delegation of Mahmoud Abbas voted an attempt. United Nations, its protection, its immunity, its worldwide, and European Union must be at the forefront of those that defend it.
Africa News. The news.
This weekend marks the start of the campaign for the constitutional referendum in Guinea. The High Authority of Communication, which oversees media regulations, has also unveiled new guidelines for the coverage. They require that audiovisual media provide equal time for both supporters and opponents of the referendum. The campaign period will run from August 31st to September 18, with voting scheduled for September 21, coinciding with the 4th anniversary of the military coup led by the junta in 2021. The proposed constitutional changes include an extension of presidential term from 5 to 7 years, with a cap of 2 terms, notably a clause that will limit any individual to 2 presidential terms over their lifetime has been removed. Additionally, the draft introduces the establishment of a Senate with 1/3 of its members to be directly appointed by the head of state. Since the 2021 military coup that ousted President Alpha Conde, the transitional government has been in place. However, concerns about the country's democratic future persist, especially following the government dissolution of numerous political parties and the failure to meet prior election deadlines. An Irish missionary in a 3-year-old the matter by coming on an orphanage. According to officials, among those kidnapped is Kenna Erranti, an Irish missionary who has worked in Haiti since 1993 and is director of a specialist program for children and adults at the St. Helena Orphanage. Erranti and other 7 members were taken hostage during the August 3rd attack on the orphanage, which is run by Nos Petits Frères at Soul, an international charity with offices in Mexico and France. No one claimed responsibility for the attack, but the area has been controlled by a gang federation known as Vive and Search. The United States this year designated a foreign terrorist organization.
A U.S. executive order reinstating duties for national postal services. Mexico on Wednesday joined a growing number of countries in suspending packages to the United States due to confusion over tariffs on low-fare parcels. Packages which duty due to the so-called de minimis exemption, but that comes to an end on Friday thanks to a US executive order President Trump signed last month. Goods that previously entered the United States without needing to clear customs will require vetting and will be subject to their home country's tariff rates, anything from 10 to 50%. International postal services in Japan, Australia, India, and a number of European countries have already paused the shipment of packages to America. They say there's too much ambiguity. Post said the US didn't provide full detail or service to prepare for the new customs procedures. La Poste expressed regret over the situation. It's continuing to work with US authorities to resolve the issue as soon as possible. Proponents of limiting the access say it's allowed Chinese retail platforms to flood the US with low-priced goods. But some smaller American businesses that rely on imported products could be hard hit by the rollback.
Tonight, a community shattered by gun violence gathers for mass.
No innocent life should have been taken in the house of God.
For the first time since a shooter opened fire on their church filled with students, a grieving community returns to worship.
I'm Ashley Grams in Minneapolis. The Annunciation faithful are gathering in their auditorium to pray and to heal.
Also tonight, resistance plan. Chicago's mayor pushes back against President Trump.
Do not want to see tanks in our streets. I'm Willie James Inman at the White House, where President Trump is facing new resistance to his immigration crackdown and his punishing worldwide tariffs.
Plus, air attacks.
I'm Holly Williams. There were more deadly overnight strikes in Ukraine, and despite President Trump's efforts, no sign that Vladimir Putin wants to end the war that he started.
Record numbers on the road and in the sky.
I'm Elise Preston at Los Angeles International Airport. Why Labor Day travel is soaring this weekend, whether you're flying or driving.
And later, Cracker Barrel's new old logo. A company co-founder weighs in on the controversy with a warning.
If they don't get back to keeping the country, then it ain't gonna work.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Holiday travel rush and the headaches that still remain. Millions hitting the roads and taking to the skies on one of the busiest Labor Day weekends. But severe weather creating some chaos. A ground stop at one major hub. Heavy rains flooding this highway, sending this truck spinning out of control. We're tracking it all. President Trump facing 2 new setbacks in federal court after rulings against his tariff and deportation policies. How the White House is fighting back. Israel's military launching new attacks on Gaza's most populated city as the International Red Cross warns a safe evacuation would be impossible. Tensions rising between the U.S. and Venezuela. The Navy sending in American warships, and now Venezuela is accusing the U.S. of preparing an invasion. A big surprise at the Burning Man Festival. Strangers coming together to deliver a baby girl. And get this, the mom didn't know she was pregnant. The new warning about rabies cases on the rise across the country. What you need to know to protect yourself and your pets. The most anticipated game of college football's opening weekend. A rematch between the top two teams as the new generation of the football family dynasty steps into the spotlight. And there's good news tonight. About the perfect strangers who stepped in to help find this man's best friend.
This is NBC Nightly News with Jose Diaz-Balart.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.